Welcome to this Air Products contractor induction, which introduces you to the key points from our policies and procedures that you must follow. The attitudes and behaviours of everyone working on our facilities must continually focus on our goal of zero injuries. Please take time to view our life-saving behaviours posters situated around our sites. To reach and sustain our zero accident performance, we need each and every individual, including contractors, to be actively engaged in recognising hazardous situations and taking personal responsibility. In addition to the rules and practices described, you're expected to use your own training, experience and good judgment to work safely. Unless you have been advised otherwise, an Air Products issued safety work permit is required before you begin any work on our site. The safety work permit issuing process begins when the work area is jointly visited by the safety work permit issuer from Air Products and the safety work permit receiver. During this visit, the specific location of the work and job scope will be defined. Together, you will review the work area conditions, tools, equipment to be used and potential hazards, so that you can both agree on appropriate protective measures. The receiver of the safety work permit is responsible for agreeing and complying with the safety work permit instructions. The receiver must ensure their entire work team know the requirements of the safety work permit and that everyone must comply. Now we will review elements of the safety work permit. Certain work activities require additional permits, approvals and training such as confined space entry, excavation, high voltage work. Hot work is documented on the safety work permit. Mobile cranes require safety work permits for entering the facility, for setup, and for all the moves thereafter. Fall protection is mandated if you'll be working at heights above 1.2 metres and needs to be considered whenever there is a fall risk. Fall protection may be guardrails, these can be permanent or scaffolding, safety net, which must be CE marked for this purpose, hole cover, safety harness with a fixed lanyard, personal fall arrest harness. Some key additional points for using ladders. Avoid using a ladder as a work platform. Ladders must be appropriate for the task, inspected before use, and used safely. Never stand on the top step of a ladder. Always have 3 points of contact when ascending or descending ladders and step ladders. When work is performed above 2 metres, a ladder should not be used. Scaffolding shall only be erected, modified or dismantled by qualified persons. Scaffolding must have a current valid inspection and be tagged. For example, a green tag shows safe to use. A yellow tag indicates restrictions apply. A red tag means do not use. Only authorised and trained individuals may operate mobile elevated work platforms. Work positioning equipment must be used to prevent reaching or stretching beyond any guardrails. Other key safety controls. Always use the correct tools and PPE for the job. Inspect before use and use only as intended. If defective, immediately take it out of service. Evidence of relevant training should be made available to Air Products upon request. Restricted or barricaded areas are used to protect you and others from hazards. Do not enter those areas unless authorised to do so. Be alert for slip, trip and fall hazards such as uneven surfaces, loose ground, cables, hoses and other materials. Slips, trips and falls can be prevented when you maintain a clean and tidy work area. Use handrails on stairs, look where you're walking, and remember to master the basics. Be aware of your surroundings. Know your physical limitations. Use the proper PPE. Follow our procedures. Think, and think again. Warning signs are there for your safety, do not ignore them. These may indicate hazards such as confined spaces, high voltage, asphyxiation, high noise areas, hazardous materials and substances. The safety work permit discussion will assess any hazardous material exposures, waste disposal and emissions to the environment. Any substances brought on site must be discussed with your host. you must be able to provide a safety data sheet upon request. Your host will specify how and where all materials and wastes will be managed throughout the job. Use only approved, properly labelled containers and the appropriate PPE to handle any hazardous material. Under no circumstances will any hazardous material be discharged to the ground, the sewer system, the storm sewer system, or the atmosphere. Immediately notify your supervisor and an Air Products representative of any release or spill. Air Products uses a behaviour-based approach to incident prevention called Basic Safety Process, or BSP. Contractors are included in BSP activities such as housekeeping inspections or safety work permit audits. All Air Products employees are encouraged to hold safety conversations with contractors. If you see anything that appears unsafe, raise your concerns with either your host or directly with the individual.
Personal protective equipment. Your host will tell you the site PPE requirements. Any additional PPE will be determined as part of the review and planning of the job. You may need to wear specific gloves, clothing, footwear, hearing or face protection. Your required PPE will be indicated on the safety work permit. As a contractor, you should have with you your own standard PPE and safety equipment as necessary to safely perform your work. Where there are additional hazards from Air Products operations on site, Air Products shall either supply specialised equipment or will have specified this requirement in your scope of work. Respiratory protection. All personnel who could be exposed to breathing hazards are required to wear appropriate respiratory protection. Respiratory protection may only be used if trained and properly fit tested. You may be required to wear a personal gas monitor. Lockout, tagout and energy isolation program. The Safety Work Permit system, in conjunction with the Lockout, tagout and energy isolation program, must be followed so that work is performed safely. Air Products personnel will identify and isolate all sources of energy and place a permit lock and danger tag on those isolations. You may not remove or modify any Air Products energy control tags or locks. You will be required to place a personal lock on the lock box or on individual isolation points. If you are working as part of a team, the team leader will use a single group lock on behalf of the team. All team members must sign on and sign off using the group lockout signatures form. This is your assurance that isolation is maintained during the permitted work. Your lock must clearly identify your name and your contact number. It is very important that individuals remove their personal locks at the end of each shift and when they are no longer working on the job. Extensive approvals are needed for emergency removal of personal locks if we cannot contact you. The requirements for isolation and purging are identified on the Safety Work Permit. If work conditions or behaviours appear unsafe, anyone has the authority to stop the job. Stop work and notify the permit issuer if there are changes in the nature or scope of the work, or if there are changes in the controls, precautions outlined in the Safety Work Permit. You must also stop work in case of a site emergency, if an unsafe condition arises, or if instructed to do so by your site host or permit issuer. In these cases, the Safety Work Permit will be suspended and work may not begin until it is reissued or revalidated by the permit issuer. Upon completion of the job, the Safety Work Permit receiver will sign and return the Safety Work Permit to the issuer before any personal locks are removed. In summary, you must report any incidents, injuries or near misses to your site host as soon as possible. Safety is the #1 priority on any site. If you have any questions, please discuss them with your Air Products host. If necessary, your host will now review additional site-specific information essential for safe work and conduct on this site. Life-saving behaviours play a part in our activities. Recognising risks and taking action will keep you safe. At Air Products, we believe that each and every one of us must take responsibility for our own actions, workplace conditions and decisions, both when working alone and with others. If ever you feel unsafe, you should speak up. Remember, at Air Products, nothing is more important than safety. Thank you.